Hello and welcome to another episode of EKU Online's eCast series. EKU Online's mission is to change lives by providing access to affordable and high-quality degree programs in meaningful disciplines that positively impact our society. We thank you for joining us. Today, our guest is Dr. Siwei Gao. Dr. Gao is the Thomas and Rebecca Coffey Professor of Insurance Studies at Eastern Kentucky University. She graduated from the Risk Insurance and Healthcare Management program at Temple University and joined EKU as an assistant professor. Dr. Gao's current research interests include enterprise risk management and risk modeling. She has publications about risk management, insurance, and management science in journals such as Risk Analysis, Journal of Financial Transformation, Asia Pacific Journal of Risk and Insurance, and the European Journal of Operational Research. Dr. Gao also served on the Board of Governors of the Asia Pacific Risk and Insurance Association during 2015 through 2018. Also joining us is Debbie Ellis. Debbie is the program coordinator for the Risk Management and Insurance program, and her responsibilities can be described as, quote, all things student. Debbie coordinates all scholarship information and applications, student travel to conferences and study abroad, program events, fundraising, emailing job notices to students, providing guidance for classes, and even helping them build resumes. Debbie graduated from Eastern Kentucky University with a master's degree in school counseling in 2011. Welcome, Dr. Gao and Debbie. Thank you so much for your time today. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Let's jump right in. Since many in our audience may not be familiar with the discipline of risk management and insurance, or what we call RMI, and its terminology, Dr. Gao, would you please take a few moments to explain the basics for us?
Yes, I'd be glad to do that. Risk management means understanding the risk in your organization and its environment. After that, you should select the best approach to reduce the risk while maximizing the value of your organization. Specifically, you can consider risk management as a problem-solving process that includes 4 steps. First of all, you need to know if there's a risk. Believe it or not, coming out of the dark is usually the hardest thing. A prominent example for this would be the terrorist risk. Before 9/11, there was no such thing as terrorist risk, and consequently, no risk management solution was readily available at the time. The next step of risk management would be to know about the risk. Traditionally, we use statistical modeling, and nowadays, machine learning has found its way in many risk management applications, thanks to the availability of the big data. Then we go to the fun part of actually dealing with the risk. Insurance is one way of dealing with risk. It essentially transfers the risk from the insured to the insurance company who has better tolerance of that risk. But beyond insurance, we offer an array of different approaches such as avoidance, retention, and loss control. Lastly, we always need to go back to the very first step and then review our process of risk management to continuous improvement. For example, after the Congress passed the Terrorism Risk Insurance Act, TRIA, in 2002, it was revisited and reauthorized 4 times. The last reauthorization was in 2019, and it is scheduled to expire in 2027. So as you see, it is an ongoing process, like a circle. You always go back to the very first point and then move forward.
Very good. Very good. Well, Dr. Gao, please tell us a little bit about your program. How many faculty positions do you have, and what specific degree programs or certificates are offered online?
Sure. We have 3 faculty positions in the RMI program. We offer both on-campus and online risk management and insurance major with a bachelor's degree in business administration, in the short form, BBA. We also offer a minor in RMI. We also offer the collegiate studies of the CPCU, that is a short term for Chartered Property and Casualty Underwriter. a student in the RMI program, either online or on campus, who has passed 2 designated courses that we offer with a B and above will be able to waive 2 of the 9 CPCU exams.
Oh, wow, that's impressive. Just as a matter of interest here, because I had not heard of such a program until I came to Eastern, how many universities in the state and in the nation offered this kind of program?
Well, in Kentucky, we are the only one risk management insurance program. Nationwide, there's no solid number. Many schools do offer a concentration in insurance, a track in insurance, but not many schools have a major in insurance or risk management. A lot of schools also have a major in actuary science that is also closely related with risk management insurance.
So we're the only ones in the state.
Yes, we are.
Oh, very good. Debbie, let me ask you a question now. As you counsel and advise students, where do you end up seeing many of them working after graduation? And in other words, what kinds of skills can students learn? And what kind of jobs can a graduate expect to land with a degree that he or she earns in this discipline?
To answer this question, I would like to tell you about some of our current students and alumni and what they are doing. Christopher Lenig, he actually lives in Pennsylvania, and I know that he is married with small children, and he works as a commercial lines underwriter for a small mutual carrier. Through a summer scholarship we offered, he was able to complete 2 designations, and those are designations that Dr. Gao talked about from the institutes. And now, because of completing those 2 designations, he was able to start working as a property claims adjuster. He has also stepped into a role on the board of directors for his employer and expected to become president when the current president retires. He has told me that the education he has received from us has played a large role in his career success. Another one of our students, one of our first eCampus alumni, his name is Casey Panner, and he is from Lexington, Kentucky. He contacted me when he first joined our program. He was looking for a co-op or an internship experience. At the time, he was running his own lawn care business and was worried about what he was going to do in the wintertime. I gave him the information about an internship at Auto Owners in Lexington. Shortly after he applied, he started working for Auto Owners, and since graduation has become an underwriter with them. While still a student, Casey flew to Dallas with us to attend the Gamma Iota Sigma annual conference. And it was so nice to have an eCampus student spend time with an on-campus student in a wonderful learning environment. Another student, her name is Deborah Eiten, and she lives in Florida. She is about to graduate. She works at an agency that was started some time ago by her father, and actually has a daughter who attends EKU on campus. Deborah doesn't need her degree to keep her job or to be successful, but she still values the education we are providing her. Because Deborah was unable to attend our golf outing this year as a student helper, we have an annual golf outing, and we always invite students to come and help with the setup and everything that happens. She sent a sponsorship instead. It was a very pleasant surprise to have a current student giving back to our program before she had even graduated.
Wow, those are quite interesting success stories. I'm sure you're very proud of that.
Yes, we are actually.
Debbie, can you tell us a little bit how Casey afforded to go to Dallas with us?
Oh yeah, for the Dallas trip, because it was a student and a program sponsored trip, we paid for everything. The only thing Casey had to pay for was a $25 buy-in. So he paid me $25. I put his name on the list, and then we covered his airfare, the ticket to get into the conference, and the hotel. And we did take 10 students with us that year. And that was just 2 years ago.
Wow, what an experience for the students.
Yeah, they were actually in Dallas for 5 days, and they got to attend the Dallas County State Fair and a lot of other fun events while they were there.
Oh, it's exciting. Your program sounds very student-centric, and
Mhm.
that's a wonderful thing to hear from EKU. Well, Dr. Gao, you've dealt yourself with students most of your professional life. From your perspective, what kind of students are drawn into the online RMI program?
More than half of my students from the eCampus program are non-traditional students.
Mhm.
That means they have a full-time job. Some of them have a bachelor's degree in other areas, and they're seeking an RMI degree to advance their career in the risk management and insurance industry. Some of them have no college experience at all, and most of them have some college credit that they transfer in. No matter of their background, they were drawn in our online RMI program simply because of the prominent job opportunities that the RMI field has to offer.
So is there a high demand for RMI graduates?
Yes, yes. Debbie can answer more about that because she handles those positions, but we have more job positions, internship posted in our website than what we can offer by our student number.
I commonly send out about 2 job notices a week. It'll average out to be about 2 a week because at the end of the spring semester, I will get job notices sent to me almost daily. And I'm emailing those out to our students. We email them to all of our students on campus and eCampus, whether they're in state or out of state. We just want them all to see what's out there and available. Some of the companies that we list jobs for are national companies. So perhaps a student is saying, where could I find a job? Where should I apply? They might see for a job here in Kentucky, and they might think, oh, I wonder if they have a job in Florida, where I live, or in Las Vegas, or wherever the students are at. So that's a really good thing. And plus, it allows, we send it to everyone, also students who are not graduating, because we want them to see what jobs are out there, what to look forward to, and to begin to understand that we're here to help them find a job.
Wow. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. That's wonderful to hear.
Mhm.
I'm going to shift gears a little bit, Dr. Gao. You're known to be a very effective online instructor, somebody who spends a lot of time in the creation and teaching of your courses. My question to you is, what are some aspects of the online experience that you find particularly effective for students? I mean, is there a certain approach you use to really engage the students?
So I think when you think about this, it's more customer central, and I consider my students as my customers. So I look at what their need is. Our online student body is vastly different from our on-campus students. I found that they are more self-motivated than their on-campus peers. They pay their tuitions on their own. Most of them have a full-time job, and many of them have a family and usually consist with young children. So their situation is quite similar to mine. I could imagine myself juggling with work, family, and study at the same time. So I really feel their pain, and I do admire their resiliency. With that being said, I found 2 keys that are particularly helpful in this situation. One is the flexibility, and the other one is the communication. In many of my courses, I make all materials, homework, exams available on the very first day. So students can start and finish their work on their own pace. Of course, as long as they meet the deadline, right? We always have to submit their final grade. I have received many, many positive feedbacks about such setup. So it helps with their, situation. In addition, I usually respond to student emails the moment I read them, unless I need to check in with additional resources. Online learning can be difficult when students feel isolated or even orphaned. Timely correspondence would help to solve this problem, I think. Engagement is challenging with online setup, especially when students are totally strangers to each other. I found that voice thread tool, which we have in the Blackboard setup, helps when students introduce themselves with a picture of themselves, sometimes family, or even a pet at the beginning of the course. That activity immediately draws them close to each other.
Well, let me drill down a little bit and talk about one of your courses. I think it's one of the fundamental courses, RMI 370, Principles of Risk and Insurance. I notice that you use a number of different media, including voiceover PowerPoints, video, YouTube videos, VoiceThread, lecture videos, and of course, a lot of readings. If you would you tell our audience about the effectiveness you see in teaching using these variety of tools? I mean, why not just have everything as one big lecture, or why not have everything as just one big reading assignment? What's the advantage of mixing it all up?
I think each of these tools has its own advantage. Switching among different approaches has its pros and cons, and the pros is very obvious. It stimulates the audience and consequentially boosts attention, right? We know that little kids, when they're at daycare, they're actively engaged in one activity for about 30 minutes, and then you shift them to another activity. We're adults, but our attention span is still short. So, help different approaches definitely helps this, stimulates the audience and try to boost their attention. With that being said, mastering any of the above mentioned approach can take time and a lot of practices. In addition, students sometimes can be confused with various tools, especially if it requires them to learn about the tools and that activity can be linked with their grade. They sometimes can get nervous. So I usually would try to steer away from those tools. I mean, life is complicated. Let's make our course simple and straightforward.
Very good, very good. What's the biggest difference that you see in teaching in the classroom versus teaching online? And what do you enjoy most about teaching online?
I think a fair comparison is stage performance versus movie. I haven't done any of those. It's just by observing it, right? So teaching in a classroom is like stage performance. You have the material to deliver. You have an hour and 15 minutes to do it, and you have the uncertainty about student engagement. In that particular class, in short, you have a lot of factors to control, and you only have one shot to do it right. While with online teaching, I love that I can redo my course over and over again. I have the opportunity to continuously improve my course at the level of every single second. This is not exaggerating. If you have ever done any video editing when you're looking for the perfect frame to cut or edit, you could also do all sorts of cool stuff, such as adding music to your lecture or turn yourself even into a cartoon character if you want. So that's the things that I do enjoy in my online teaching.
Thank you. Well, many years ago, I worked for a large insurance company, and our CEO described insurance simply as a quote unquote promise. And given all that you know about risk management, risk mitigation, and insurance in general, what's your reaction to that? Is it simply a promise?
A promise is definitely the backbone of it. You need to pay for the claim if it should be payable. But now insurance is way beyond just delivering a promise or to pay when a loss occurs. And now it's integrated into holistic risk management process with the goal of, like I said, maximizing your firm value. For example, EKU is self-insured with its health insurance. That means EKU has to pay for its employees' hours medical bill, but it has to carefully design its health insurance plan so that it can attract and retain the best employees while still staying solvent on its health insurance plan. So it's not just paying the bill at the end of the day, but also maximizing the value of EKU while designing its health insurance plan.
Okay. Today consumers have a lot of options when they consider insurance carriers. And what's interesting is if you watch TV commercials, you'll see that all the insurance companies claim to save the policyholders money. And we know that not all insurance companies are created equally. So what should consumers look for when selecting an insurance company?
That's very interesting. I have that as when I open my YouTube video all the time. I was kind of wondering myself, is it because I'm an RMI professor, so that keywords pop out a lot that they simply target me? But it sounds like it's not. It's just random. Anyways, I think I never had the chance to look through their app. I just didn't do it. I think I'm savvy enough in this field, but I cannot answer that aspect. But in terms of selecting an insurance company, I think there are two factors that should be considered. For the financial stability of the company, for sure, and also the quality of customer service. There are a variety of rating agencies for insurance company. One example would be AM Best. They look for various aspects of an insurance company, and most importantly, if the insurance company can stay solvent. Look for the best rating, my advice is. In terms of customer service quality, it's a little bit vague. I usually resort to Google as my best friend for matters like this. And usually it can give you very in-depth customer review. Now, we know that personal insurance needs. People either purchase insurance directly or go through an agent. Really, depending on the complexity of your insurance need, either one could be a good option. Let me give you two examples here. Myself, I usually shop around for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and umbrella insurance directly by quoting with various insurance companies. Sure, my purpose here is to save premium. However, you need to be very careful when you're comparing different quotes that you are truly comparing apple to apple. For example, I recently switched my insurance for lower premium purpose, of course. This raises my homeowner's insurance policy deductible by $4,000. So I save premium, but my deductible raised by $4,000. In case like this, you have to ask yourself, are you comfortable with that increased $4,000 deductible? Mm-hmm. Do you have $4,000 available in your bank to fix your house should your house suffer from such damage? If making a decision seems to be difficult for you, well, for me, it's simple, either a yes or no, right? But if you're kind of on the borderline, then you probably need to resort to an agent to help you figure out that. Otherwise, I'd say shop around and DIY your insurance solution. Another example I like to talk about is some complex insurance need, estate planning. I have a very good friend who's an attorney and teaches estate planning himself. Should be an expert in the field, right? Well, he hires an agent to help with his estate planning need. Why? That's because his insurance need is complex, and there are infinite solutions out there. Although he's an expert, he's not active in the practice, and he needs some help with the most innovative estate planning tool. So really, depending on your insurance need, either shop by yourself or have an agent to help you with your need. Either way is a good solution, depending on the need.
Very good. That's fascinating. I'm going to delve now into something that maybe isn't as fascinating, but it is disturbing a little bit. And that is, according to the FBI, insurance fraud, and that's not including the healthcare fraud, just regular insurance fraud, is estimated to be about $40 billion per year. And that averages out, they figure, to something like $400 to $700 increases in premiums per family per year. my question to you, Dr. Gao, is what can be done to mitigate and reduce that kind of fraud?
Well, I really can't say what can be done that hasn't been done yet. Like you said, it's $1 billion question. But
Mhm.
my 2 cents of thoughts here are first, education. People need to know insurance fraud is crime. I am tired of the billboard ads of good-hearted attorneys who can help you to get paid for workers' compensation or auto accident. For one thing, it portrays insurers as the bad guy who refused to pay, and we're not. There's usually a very good reason why, insurance is not paid out. For another thing is it makes people think that it is okay to rob the insurance company. It certainly is not. It's a crime. Second is with the availability of big data and various data mining technologies, it is getting harder and harder to commit the conventional insurance fraud. However, there are some new trends include bot quotes, which is opening fake policies using consumer information purchased or stolen from a lead who generates from an agent's book, for example. And there's also ghost brokers and identity assumptions. These new trends has morphed insurance fraud into cybercrime category.
Hmm. Now, does the FBI or do the insurance companies themselves combat this kind of fraud? Who's ultimately, well, I guess the criminals are ultimately responsible for the act, but as far as trying to catch these bad guys, cyber criminals or regular criminals, whose job is it? Is it the insurance companies?
Insurance companies and the regulators. For example, if you have an auto insurance fraud, say Siwei want to get a claim, right? I just want to, I submit this claim to an insurance company. It would review it. At the end of the day, if the insurance company never paid out to me, then the case is closed. So, for example, if I want to bring in a claim for insurance company, the insurance company can decide not to pay me. If they don't pay out, then there's considered as no damage, then the case is closed. If the insurance company eventually paid out, but there's some suspicious activity involved, it would then forward this information to the regulatory body at the state level. It would then review the cases. Certain cases that they resolved can be not necessarily resolved, but they flag, can be turned to the FBI and let them do the further investigation. So there are channels for things like this. If I have been identified as a fraud, then in the future when I apply for insurance, I would have a lot of trouble doing that.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Now, tell us a little bit, if you would, about your research interests.
Yes, there are two topics that I'm particularly interested in. One is to investigate the value of enterprise risk management in firm operation. For example, I look at whether when a firm adopted a ERM, the Enterprise Risk Management Program, whether their accounting stability increases, whether their stock volatility decreases. So small things like that I like to investigate. The other one is to look at the contracting scenario between insurance companies and brokers. You want to hire brokers who convey the best information, because brokers and agents usually have the very first-hand information about the insured. So you want to kind of have the best contracting framework to attract the best agents and brokers and to compensate them if they do the job right. So those are the two streams of research topics that I'm particularly interested in.
Very good. Well, Debbie, let me ask you a question. It's been my understanding that you're the axle that turns the wheel, so to speak. You're heavily involved in the success of the RMI students. But tell me, what do you do in your spare time, if you have any, and what activities do you enjoy?
Well, Honestly, my favorite thing to do is travel with the students. It's not spare time, but it is time we're spending. Annually, I take students to the WSIA conferences in both Atlanta and Chicago. I usually go to the Gamma Iota Sigma annual conferences, which have been in Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, and Dallas. My very favorite travel is the study abroad trips we take to London, England, and Bermuda. Taking students to a place they have never been before is great fun. Not to mention the information they learn that helps them do better in class and make connections that will truly enhance their careers. I find it very rewarding to know that I'm helping to positively impact the students' learning. So traveling is definitely my favorite thing to do.
Do you see the students who travel doing better in class? Is that typically a general rule of thumb?
Yes, they do, actually. They do much better in class. And I find that they become more engaged and determined to finish their degree. That's also a very important thing. We've had a few that traveled with us that went on when they got back. I mean, they become so excited to actually work in the industry. They'll come back and they get themselves really nice jobs. And then sometimes we do have to remind them, you've got to finish your degree, don't forget to come back and finish. But they will go and get themselves some really good jobs after we come back.
Very good. Well, Dr. Gao, same question for you. What do you do in your spare time?
I love traveling, but with two young kids, we decided it's too much for us for the moment. But we do simple things when weather permits. I love outdoor hiking, biking. I also enjoy cooking and baking. When you have kids, cooking is the best treat, right? I have recently found my interest in puzzles when my 4-year-old started her journey in the puzzle world. So that's what I do in the lockdown time.
Oh, very good. Well, I've really enjoyed talking with you, Dr. Gao and Debbie, and really appreciate all the information. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
It has been almost 10 years since I started working at EKU. I used to teach courses at Temple University in Philadelphia. I have to say that the student body is really different here. Unlike the savvy Philly kids, many of our students are first-generation college students that had no clue what a college experience can provide. Here, I have to emphasize experience beyond education. Like Debbie mentioned, we offer a lot of travel opportunities with the students. And that makes a huge difference in the student's life. Once a student told me on our way back from a national conference, in the plane, he said, "Dr. Gao, do you know that I'm a different person now?" That just made my day.
Mm.
I would like to add one more thing as well. Our program offers a lot of different scholarships. We do mid-year scholarships, foundation scholarships, scholarships with money we raise from our golf outing, and scholarships for transfer students, and just a lot of different scholarships. It is important that our students stay in touch with us. It's important that we know what they're doing, and we have a risk management and insurance LinkedIn page that we would love to have all of our students and alumni, current students and alumni, like and follow, because we need to know where they're working. We need to know what they're doing. It's a lot easier to solicit donations from insurance companies and to get their support when we know we have an alumni working in that company. And oftentimes the alumni are the ones going to their bosses and saying, you should donate money to this cause. This is a good program. And that's how I got my education. So often I hear a student talk about working in a particular company or wanting to work in a particular company. And I can say to them, hey, We have an alumni working there. Yes, you should apply. Or would you like me to give you their email? You could contact them and they could give you some tips on how to interview, or who to make contacts with, or maybe they'll put in a good word for you. We do have a strong alumni group and a strong student group. They get along. We introduce them to each other. They get to meet each other. And it allows them to make those connections that they need when they're working in the real world.
Well, good words from both of you to wrap up our talk here this afternoon. I just thank you both very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you and getting to know you a little bit better. And it's been really interesting learning more about the leading edge work you're doing with the RMI program here at EKU. Makes me proud to realize that we're the only ones in the state that have such a program. Thank you, and we really appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
This is fun.